All righty, good. Well, I'm honored to be here. Thank you very much. I have a PowerPoint presentation prepared, and the topic is not just Feng Shui, but dowsing for Feng Shui. So some of you may be Feng Shui practitioners. I'm assuming you all know how to dowse. You all know geopathic stress. So I'm going to skip over basic information that I might normally force people to go through. Just going to hide these meeting controls. So dowsing for Feng Shui and space clearing. Now, here's your first. I presume you all have your pendulums handy, ready to dowse, and that you've got your yes, your no, and that you're accurate. So first, ask yourself, is this image, is that an example of good Feng Shui or bad Feng Shui? So do a guesstimate in your head, yes, no, and then perhaps dowse, yes, no. Is this an example of good Feng Shui? Ironically, I'll tell you the answer as you do that. It's an example of good Feng Shui. This crazy little record shop is curated and displayed in this way in order to boost sales. Because you know the old school records, it's just a flat thing. You can't see anything. But the guy goes in and he just makes a mess. You can see how it's all carefully pulled out. It's all over the floor. And the customer gets an exciting treasure hunt sort of feeling to it. So his shop actually burned down for other reasons, and he recreated it in the same way. So, you know, Feng Shui is not necessarily what we think. So as Dawn was kind enough to say, I am the Reverend Susan Collins. I was also gifted with a native name, Carrier of the Sacred Water, Water Woman, by my colleague, White Eagle. And some of you know Graham Gardner, probably from Scotland, westerngeomancy.org, I think. He was also gifted with the name Carrier of the Sacred Fire. And together we are internationaldowsers.org. So it's kind of fun to as your group is doing, have colleagues and friends and practitioners, co-practitioners around the world so we can share our different traditions and cultures and vocabulary as part of it. I have American clients, and they say they have to sometimes translate my Canadian words into American so that they understand what we mean. So it's a cross-cultural experience, and then we just reinterpret it back into our own language or own download. So I also have studied in the Wet'suwet'en tradition, northern British Columbia, with many horses. I have an initiation with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I've studied in the Celtic tradition, the Kabbalistic tradition, and am an ordained minister. So by law, I must say my religion is metaphysics, which is the study of the nature of reality, which we are all deeply engrossed in. Just, you know, who am I? Why are you listening even? So my journey, I was clairsentient back in my day as a child. Nobody talked about it. Part of my mission now is to normalize the discussion of metaphysics, particularly among children or grandchildren, to make it normal so that as the next generations come up, we won't have to be frightened. I actually remember playing inside a chair, just as this. That's not me, obviously, because they didn't have color photography when I was a baby. But I remember playing in a chair and looking for that protection. And of course, my family tormented me by teasing me because I could feel everything. I was clairsentient, but there was no discussion of what it was or how to control it. So that's part of what I try to do. I had a big corporate career, making lots of money. And then when I was 29, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And next 23 years, my hands didn't open or close. Did all the big drugs. It was a horrific time. I got food sensitivities. My immune system basically shut down in 1981. But in 1999, I found dowsing. And it took me about 5 years, but I'm basically symptom-free and drug-free. If any of you are doctors, my doctors would say to me that I was in remission. But I worked, and I continue to work every day. It's not one and done. It is a continual process of self-healing. And that's part of what the Feng Shui is a way of self-healing. As I get older, I'm now talking about reverse aging. So at 29, I was geriatric. My body was a geriatric body. As I have matured, I've gotten stronger and stronger. And now the term I'm using is reverse aging and augmented reverse aging, when we have orthotics or whatever we have. But the idea is not to be old. The idea is to be alive, right? Be alive and well. So along the way, I recognize that the autoimmune disorders can be the self not recognizing the self. Briefly, that is, if you don't know who you are, your body can attack itself. So for me, take this away. If it's the only thing, be in your body. To do any energy work, be fully in your body, and that's the safe platform that we move from. Along the way, as Dawn mentioned, I've written a ton of books, and they're all on Amazon with Prime delivery or from my website. And the book that is most relevant for today is Dosing for Feng Shui and Space Clearing. Excuse me. I was asked to, by the Canadian Institute of Feng Shui and a couple of other Feng Shui practitioners in Canada, to help them understand the energies around them, because as one of them said to me, we're finding energies, we don't know what they are. Now, as dosers, we have a pretty good idea of what some of these energies are, but the Feng Shui people didn't really know. So I guess it's about 10 years ago or so, I wrote that one. And it's kind of the bridge between the Feng Shui practitioners and the dosing world. I'm presuming you know the dosing tools. I use a bobber a lot. I find that really, really handy because I had compromised wrists. A pendulum often would hurt. So the bobber, and can't see that so well. Anyway, the background doesn't allow you to see it, but you can see it in the picture. You just hold it and it's very, very responsive. So I'm presuming you are familiar with those tools. I use the plus minus chart a lot. I'm not sure if you guys do. I was trained originally on a ray chart that just went from basically 0 to plus 10. However, when you're encountering energies and you want to measure them, if the energies are non-beneficial, there's no place for that on the chart. A non-beneficial energy is not neutral. It's actually detrimental. So neutral is on the line in number 0, and the stuff that's going to be good for us is on the right-hand side. Stuff that's not beneficial is on the left-hand side. So I always use that sort of protractor chart, and the type of statement I might make with that is, please show me the overall effect of X at this time. You might fill in there, since we're talking feng shui, please show me the overall effect of the contents of this room on me or my child or my pet or whoever the client is. Please show me the overall effect of the contents of this room on my health. And then the pendulum will swing to some number. It's either neutral, non-beneficial, or beneficial. Always, we want to get up to plus 10 if we can. We want to get up as the most beneficial for me, my client, my pet. It's all going to be different for each of us. But for the specific client, what is the most beneficial energy reading that this room or object or food, what is the most beneficial reading or energy level of this substance? If it's not plus 10, then we have things to do about that, which we'll get into here. So what is dosing? Like, we know dosing is you spin a little thing around. My daughter is an engineer, and that she has a degree in applied science. So I apply that sort of terminology to dosing. Dosing is applied consciousness. We have the modality of objects, tools moving around, but what we are aware of is consciousness, and through dosing we interact and apply consciousness, and that's my definition of dosing. What do? We detect and transform energy. So detection is huge. As in the earlier question, what is the overall effect of this substance on my body, or these objects in this room on my health? That's the detection. What is the overall effect? And when we find it's less than plus 10, then we transform the energy by disconnecting non-beneficial energy and transforming it to beneficial. And we'll talk more about that. I'm sure some of you take orb pictures or have seen them or know about them. This is at one of the American Society of Dosers conferences and somebody took a picture, we're drumming. So it's not a normal dowsing tool. It's a resonance tool, an entrainment tool in community. And we were talking earlier about the importance of community. In community, we have that shared energy, which is strengthened. So in the photo, we have fabulous orbs. The energies transform and come in. With dowsing, we can communicate with all things, in my view, and with all time. So past, present, and future. These days, I hope you're doing this as well, not only checking the past, but future influences, future life, future events, and we can detect probabilities of the future and detect influences coming in from the future. An example of this is somebody worrying about selling their house or buying a house, and they have a worry based in the future. So with dowsing, we can remedy future influences as well. My philosophy, and perhaps you share this, is something called panpsychism, that everything is conscious. So we have human consciousness. We know our animal companions have their level of consciousness, cats, dogs, whatever. We know plants have consciousness, rocks have consciousness, our computers have consciousness. So if that sounds too far-fetched, you can use the as if, act as if your car has consciousness. And when you say bad words to your car, then it's as if the car hears that and does not cooperate. So I find, and this is a Feng Shui thing too, that objects, mechanics, electricity, your car will run farther on an empty tank, or low charge if you're an EV kind of person, if you talk sweetly to it. So everything is consciousness, everything is conscious. Consciousness is universal. So let's back up a little bit and look at energy, the states of matter, of energy, the orb energies. And you can see this is not a dust particle. And I've written a book on orbs. There's concentric circles and various characteristics. So that is the orb state. This is the energy stream state. And I took this picture, ordinary camera, back in the old days of point and shoot. They were really good at shooting these types of energies. I find cell phones are less good at it. The fancy, expensive cameras are less good at it, but the old point and shoot cameras are really good at shooting orbs. In any case, things to notice here is that it's asymmetrical, that there's brightness and less bright, that the very bright light at the end of it, you notice, holy smokes, it looks like the old Om symbol. So one speculates perhaps in earlier times, other seers were able to see these energies, and that is part of the hieroglyphic representation, perhaps, of certain sacred symbols that we still have. And you can see how close I am. Like I'm about 8 feet. I'm taking a picture of my friend, I think, and these energy streams are coming within a few feet of me. I showed this picture to a friend who was a seer, and I thought these things looked like they were in motion. And she said, "Oh, I see those in my shower stall, and they hang there." So they're synchronous or reflective. I mean, are we seeing the same thing in different dimensions, or are there multiples? You could douse that one. But I also figure, because it's hard to know these things, but I figure that these dots in here, these are orb carriers. They're like tubes of orbs that are coming in an energy stream. Once you get that orb, they break open, and this is a plasma state. And I invite you to see the actual real horse in the picture, and then the plasma. And you could say, oh, that's just coincidence, it's breath, it's cloud, but it's taking on the form of the horse, which is pretty cool. So the next stage of that, and I should show another picture, but I don't have it. I was out taking pictures, orb pictures one night, and one of the pictures I got was of a human in the field, and there was nobody there. So from plasma state, it can solidify and take on form. So that is how we get a lot of things in our reality that don't belong in our reality. They look like they belong, but they don't. So sometimes when I see somebody, I'll say, somebody in an unusual situation, or there's something a bit different, I will ask, is that a 100%? Is that being that I see 100% human? And just see what you get. Anyway, I'm assuming for the purposes of this talk, you all know what geopathic is, earth suffering. And there's an example of a form of a tree growing in a certain way. Back, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago, came up with the term geoprosperous. Instead of earth suffering, earth doing well, because we find what we look for. If we only look for geopathic, then we tend to find that. And in my early career, I would go into resonance with geopathic energy and get more sick. So I started refocusing and coined this word, which is in use in some places, geoprosperous, earth doing well. And that's, feeling good, all the opposite of geopathic, sensations of peace, strength, insightfulness, a power place. And you don't have to go to Sedona or other places that are well known as power places. The energies will come into you. So I have stories on that, but I'm going to move on to the Feng Shui. So let me take a little drink of water here. Back in 2010, many of my teachers died, really experienced people. And I asked myself, why are they dying? One, I'm not going to name names, but anyway, I'm not going to name names. My teachers were dying and I had recovered from a crippling disease. So I thought, what is it I'm doing that I can share and that I can use to get stronger and help other people get stronger? And I came up with this dowsing protocol. And I will send you a PDF, 2-page PDF of my protocol, so you don't have to write it down. But basically, I'm doing it with my tool, which it's hard to see here. But I asked to balance my physical body. I asked to connect with the beneficial and intelligent and beneficial energies of nature. I asked to connect with my physical human body. I asked to connect with the intelligent and beneficial energies of nature. This goes back to me saying, get in your body, plug in to the beneficial energies of nature. I connect to myself, nature, my spirit team, the divine source, beneficial beings. Forgiveness, forgive me, I forgive myself, I forgive all those who've harmed me, I release them from my body, mind, and spirit. That's a huge step in getting clean to do the work and for self-healing. Step 4, clearing yourself or disconnecting non-beneficial energies in the body. Step 5, maximize beneficial energies. Seeking permission to dose. This is the may, I, can, I, should I, which I'm sure you're aware of. If you don't have permission to dose, then it's, in my view, black magic. Dowsing is the easy part. Number 8, create an ongoing matrix or energy system. So you do a little manipulation of the energy, make it carry on. Sometimes people say, well, I cleared the house, but the bad thing came back. So we want to make it an ongoing solution. Number 9, very importantly, disconnect from the non-beneficial energies with which you've been working. I always thank things around me and then communicate results appropriately. So that's in all the books that I've got. And if you want, at susan@dowser.ca, I'll send protocol in the subject line. I'll send you that. So what do we do with that? What do we do with the protocol? We are connecting to the spirit of place, which is the basis of everything. Means we have to go into the multiverse, because that's where it all makes sense. And the multiverse is what quantum physicists now think is the most likely explanation, quantum physics, which even to them doesn't really make sense, but it kind of fits with Eastern mysticism. We talk about the quantum wave, which is the realm of possibilities. Everything is out there all the time. Wave function collapses to create physical reality. So I don't want to go too much into the science, but if you're looking at quantum physics, there's quantum entanglement, all kinds of things, but wave function collapses. And dowsing can collapse the quantum wave. Dowsing can create reality by intently focusing on a certain outcome and then bringing the energies whoop, into that. So that's the basis of what I do. And when we do that, we can interact with other consciousness. So if we're doing feng shui in a room or a house or a property, then the objects have consciousness, the antiques have consciousness, the paint, everything has consciousness. And off we go into the other realms. Okay, let's back up. That's my view on consciousness and dowsing and the protocol and safety. Gives you do all that. You have psychic protection. But let's look at feng shui a little bit. Feng shui, wind and water, developed in China to provide balance and harmony between the dead and the living. And there's a beautiful old sketch. These are mountains. You know, we have the dragon coming in. In the Neolithic times, this is the earliest depiction of some of the feng shui animals on a tomb. So this goes way, way, way back. Like always, we have all been studying metaphysics. Feng shui as Chinese metaphysics, different philosophies. And this is where you get into sort of interesting things. Like people have feng shui practitioners, there are different schools. So one of them is form feng shui based on landform. So that was one of the early ones in China. We've got the mountains in the back. You want to face south because that's where the sun is, because that in China that worked. If you were in Australia, that's not going to work so well because facing south, you're facing northern climates. So you would have to reorient that. So form feng shui is based on the landform. Compass feng shui is based on directions. So the north is this, the east is that. That ties into other traditions in the native Canadian tradition, the native North American tradition, and many others. The directions themselves have power and hold consciousness. Always, I had one colleague who said, "Oh, I get all my answers from the north," I think he said. And I suggested, why not look for answers in all the directions? If we bind ourselves to only one philosophy, we may miss out on other things. So compass feng shui based on direction. In Japan, referred to as, and I'm probably saying it wrong, Keso, Onmyodo, and Hogaku, directions and corners. So very similar. In India, we have Vastu Shastra based on building form and function. In California, there's something that was developed called Black Sect Tantric Buddhist Feng Shui, BTB, which includes ceremony. And it's most like what I'm referring to as geomancy dowsing. So we can put my practice into geomancy based on the living force. That suits me. Just looking at some of the tools of classical feng shui, which you're probably aware of, the compass, the bagua, and we're going to look at the bagua in more detail in a minute. And of course, the elements. And for me, I love, the more complicated the system, the more I love it. And you might ask, why is that? Why would I want to do a very mental practice? Part of it is, in my case, to get the emotion out of the equation. If I go onto a property or I'm working with something and you meet a client and they're sick, they're upset, there's bad luck. If we fall into their emotion, it's very difficult to be accurate. So I find it helps me to have some left brain things to do to be objective. So compassionate discernment. I see you have a problem. It's not my problem. I see you have a problem. Can I help you? And then going through checklists and rules and all that stuff, that can be helpful. Rules. However, the rules can really drag you down also, in my opinion. If we're trying to follow the rules developed in China 5,000 years ago in a geography that has nothing to do with where we are now, it's going to be really hard to have a successful outcome on that. So find the living force with dowsing. And you're all dowsers and you're all in the practice. So it's fabulous. Generally speaking, and the other thing I notice in our dowsing community, we have words for everything. We have, the Hartman grids and Curry lines and all this stuff. So we love to label things, which is fine, but sometimes we get bogged down in that as well. So a very short form of this is to take up your dowsing tool, and you can do this in your own room right now and ask, are the energies around me beneficial? Are they non-beneficial, or are they neutral? And I never used to worry about the neutral energies. Excuse me. However, I work a lot with alien energy also. I'm also a Ghostbuster, do the whole thing. When I started working with at the alien conferences, interacting with those energies, I found they were definitely willing to talk. If some of you remember the Star Trek and the Borg, there really is a lot of stuff out there that looks like the Borg. And they would present to me as neutral. Oh, we're fine. Don't worry about us. We're just here. We're just watching. And I came to think that what right do some of these energies have to be watching us? What are they? Are they waiting for something? Are they waiting for us to make a mistake? Are they waiting for us to open up and then they can do something? So I am very careful now about neutral energies. It's so I refer as potential. So just check that stuff out. I talk a lot about that in the alien book I have. Let's roll back into Feng Shui. Always, what is the intention? Are we looking for health, happiness, money? Different clients will come to you and say, well, my business is not doing well, or my child is sick, or whatever the Feng Shui issue is. So you have to be clear, what are we trying to achieve when we go in there? So it means as specific as possible. And I write things down, and I imagine you do as well, that and when I'm working with a client, I will get them, if I can, always do a lot of email work at the beginning. Please let me know what you were trying to do. Like, why did you get in touch with me? What do you want? And then I will write that back to them as to what we're working on. This is what we're going to do, and this is the time frame, and get them to agree. Yes, that's what I want. I remember going in, a house wouldn't sell. There was a couple, and they had their house up for sale, and it wasn't selling. So they invited me in, and basically, kind of just in that little conversation I had with them, the husband was totally into, yes, I want to sell the house, and then the wife actually verbalized that she didn't. So it's like, well, that explains why the house is not selling. So then we have to work. Well, they had things to work out in their marriage, obviously. We won't go into the result on that one. But, open discussion. What do you really, as the Spice Girls would say, what do you really want? Anyway, there's the Bagua, which is basically a floor plan. And there's two ways to analyze Feng Shui. One is the physical aspects, and the other is the life aspects. So I will send you a copy, a PDF, if you want, along with the protocol, this Bagua, because you may be familiar with it, you may not. I'll show you a bigger picture in a minute. But it's the idea that you go into a house and you're just looking at the physical aspects of the house. Oh, there's a picture of a deadly fire in the corner where my health is. We have objects. We have pictures, we have things that we have antiques that carry energy. So the physical things are the physical way to analyze is what is in the room or the house or the property or the business, and are they contributing? People often put their first dollar in a little business. They'll put their pound or whatever the currency is, they'll put their currency proudly behind the cash register because that's going to attract more. So that's an example of sympathetic magic, if you will, that you put around you the things that will increase your health, prosperity, whatever. But there's also the energetic analysis. So forget what the object is. What are the aspects of one's life that need work on? Is the problem in the room, or my gosh, is the problem with me? Is the problem the way I'm thinking or feeling or my vibe? So there's two ways to do the feng shui, one physical, one energetic. We'll look a little at both of them. Simplest thing to do, you walk into the room, that's business, house, whatever, and do your protocol. For me, whatever grounding or protocol you use, do something. I remember going into a house once where there was some issues. One of the client had brought her friend who was a seer, and the seer said to me as I'm going into the room, she says, "Oh, go stand over there." And before I did, I said, "Why?" She said, "Oh, I can see your dark shape right there." And she wanted me to go and stand in it. So I often, before I go in a room, I'll ask my rods to take me to a safe place. Where should I stand to be safe and accurate while I'm dowsing? And sometimes I don't even go in the room. So you can stand in the doorway, but ask your rods first, where should I stand? Once you're in a safe place where you're accurate, you can point to an area of the room that needs adjustment. And you guys know how to do that with your rods. And then ask, yes, no, is there something to add, something to take away, something to move? If it's something to move, you ask, where should I move it to? And is it a physical issue or an energy issue? So let's say you have an antique that you picked up somewhere, inherited, whatever, and the rods point to the physical issue. It may not be the piece of furniture. It may be the energies attached. So you don't have to get rid of the furniture. Just disconnect and transform the energies and remove them. It's like people, you go in, oh, my bed is in a geopathic stress zone. You better move your bed. Well, why? It's a lot simpler, because we can't move our furniture so easily in the size of units that we live in now. Instead of moving the bed, disconnect the non-beneficial energy, past, present, and future. And then adjust with the dosing protocol. So that's everything that I do. So I'm going to show you the big bagua, which is that colored squares. And here's where the different schools of feng shui run into trouble. Some always say, well, the front door should be at the south. But then, well, my front door isn't at the south. So we dose these things. How does my use area correspond to ideal bagua? Is it best for me this way? Can I dose to improve without moving everything? So let me just show you that again. So, and plus nobody's got a square house anymore, So plus some people would say, oh, the front door has got to be in the middle there, but often we're not set up that way. But there are different colors associated. There are wealth and prosperity, different attributes. There are different elements, fire, earth, wood. If you've been studying feng shui, some of the elements, fire burns wood. So if you got a lot of wood in your layout or in your chart, whatever it is, and your friend, partner, neighbor has a lot of fire, then that's going to burn you up. So being aware of elements. Obviously, this stuff is fairly complicated the way we're doing it. So, but I just want to give you so if you want to, I'll send you the bagua. The first thing you do is dose to adapt your floor plan. So let's say the front door is over here on the left. Some forms would say, oh, it must be on the bottom, on the south, or on the south, actually, because the Chinese reverse their map. South is at the top, which also makes it very confusing. So instead of being bound by rules, you just dose what edge, where should I place, what orientation should I place my floor plan on the bagua. That's a really good starting point. Okay, then we have that plus minus chart again. And I always dose the negative. Now, for example, let's just go back to that. The top right corner here is love and relationships. If your bathroom is in love and relationships, theoretically, every time you flush the toilet, you're flushing out your love and relationships. So you got to be careful with that. Typically, we can't change our layouts too much. With classical feng shui, you add some of those objects we looked at earlier. You paint things. If it's use color, you use objects, you use photographs, which help reinforce those things. But it's a good physically, what areas are out of balance? Always do the detection first, rather than trying to fix one thing. Oh, there it is, fix it. There it is, fix it. Do all the detection first. Quite typically, there is a bigger thing out of balance and a smaller thing. Then if you've got big things out of balance and small things, the next thing you dose is, should I begin with remedying the small one or the big one? So it's, for me, I dose every step of the way. Sometimes if you try to do the big one first, there's too much resistance. If you remedy the small one first, then it kind of erodes away at the big one. Conversely, if you do the big one first, all the others just seem to disappear. But there's a path in, as with all sacred space, all space, there is a way in and there's a way out. And we don't use our minds to figure out what's the path. We follow the energy. Follow the energy. Dose. Where should I stand? What should I do first? Should I begin with physical aspects, with energetic aspects? So let's say, physical aspects, that's pretty self-evident. You get rid of the old vase, or you get rid of the stain on the carpet, or whatever it is. Those sorts of things really wear you down. Or in the office, and again, thinking back to that first picture of the record shop with the total mess, that sometimes people will have a total mess in their office, but that works for them. So again, does the form of the office environment support ongoing successful outcomes? Would it help the office environment to be more tidy or less tidy? Or do we need to bring in filing cabinets? Or, what is it that's needed, without assuming? Because I know for myself, we all go in as dominant personalities for the most part, and we think, oh, everybody's like me, that would work for me, so I'm going to do it for this person. But we were talking about bears earlier and before we started recording, and when we approach a grizzly bear at a distance, it's a different energy than we would approach a bunny rabbit or a deer on the trail. We're walking in the woods, we see a deer, very likely our energy expands in a loving way, and maybe we go a little closer. If you approach the grizzly bear like that, then you don't want that grizzly bear coming closer. Conversely, if we see the grizzly bear first and send out big energy so that we are equivalent in power to the bear, which is one good safety thing. If the deer sees you, then it takes off. So our energy changes dynamically depending on the environment we are in, and our client base, and all kinds of things. So life aspects. So this is a really simple one too. You would take and you can do this on the screen, point at the screen and have your, pendulum going. Which aspect of my life is it most important for me to focus on at this time to create a successful outcome for perhaps an issue, health, finances, relationship, whatever you're doing. So just pointing at it, or, once you've got the paper one, you draw your pendulum, or quickly draw that yourself right now. You can get that, just Google Bagua and get the PDF off the internet. It's not a big deal. But which aspect of the Bagua should I work on, or should my client work on? What is holding my client back from success and financial comfort? What aspect? And you go through that, and maybe it's knowledge and wisdom. Or maybe you're doing this for yourself. Why is my practice not taking off? Or maybe it is taking off. And God bless everybody whose practice is taking off. But we all want to improve our knowledge base and our financial wealth and all the rest of that. So if that resonates with you at all, you could ask, which aspect of the Bagua should I reflects the aspect of myself that I need to work on and develop in order to create success in a particular aspect of your life. So this is really in depth. This is not, as we say, one and done. There's a lot of work. So what's the first aspect? What's the second aspect? And you carry on with that. Symbolism. Now, in order to save some time at the end, another drink of water here. I said I love complicated stuff. So let me just quickly, without explaining too much, do the symbolism of this. The animal symbolism is phoenix, tiger, turtle, dragon. This is form, feng shui. You would want these aspects. The colors that go with each of those directions. Earth in the middle. So in the front of the house, one would want open space. On one side, low hills. On the other side, trees. On the other side, higher hills. Also the elements of fire, metal, air, water, and wood, ether. So this is, classical feng shui works with all these things. So you can look at any aspect of that. A lot of us have dragon energy, and that can help us be strong. And we want our dragon energy to be with us in a certain aspect. I won't say more than that. So here's feng shui and triage. There's a couple of books I've written. When we walk into a job, it's massive. So I developed a triage, just as in the hospital. And I look, what is the primary cause? Detecting, is the problem caused by earth energies, environmental energies, psychic energies, very different things. In what time frame are we looking at? What dimension? We're talking about the multiverse. If you've got an alien problem, if you've got an alien problem and you're solving it with feng shui, it's good to know what dimension it's coming from, what the times are, and the frequencies. And anyway, frequency, people often would say that they're trying to move things into higher frequencies. This is in North America. I don't know where you are. If people want, I'm moving up into the higher octaves, the higher frequencies. And I found when I started working with the alien energies that they love the higher frequencies. I was doing a presentation at one of the conferences, and I came back after, to my table, and two different people came to me and said during my presentation they had been possessed by aliens. And what had actually happened was that the hidden alien energy had come out, and they were aware of it. But both those people were singers. One was an opera singer, and both were like high register singers. So I stopped, and I encourage you to look. Don't try to move things into higher frequencies. Have things move into the most appropriate frequencies. As well, if you're doing a ghost bust, people tend to move beings into the light. Not every being wants to go into the light. A mole, for example, doesn't want to go into the light. It wants to go someplace safe. So if I'm doing a ghost bust or an alien bust, for example, I use the word home. Do you want to go home? I'll help you go home. And home and mother seem to be really universal words that most energies can respond to. Anyway, there's a little aside. So that's the triage. What's the basis of the problem, or what reality does what reality does the problem originate in? And I'm not a medical doctor. If somebody can present with the symptoms of schizophrenia, that if there's an energy source on that, it may be possession of some sort by something, some other consciousness. If the source is in a different reality, it may indicate a medical imbalance. And we don't diagnose, we don't treat, but I have worked with people who have been in institutions and removed the I call it extra consciousness, remove the extra consciousness, and they were able to get out of the hospital. So that's something to think about. Here's my wording on that. With honor and respect, and through my guides, I ask for the cooperation of the spirit of, I'll give you the list, to assist in bringing balance and harmony. So you can apply all this stuff to Feng Shui. Like I do the neighborhood, the property, the house, elements, ancestors, guardians, on-site equipment, higher selves. So I like, I approach each level of energy separately. I did a case in my neighborhood, actually, that had been a gang property. They had a big metal high fence. They actually had a mountain lion on their property, and they were keeping people out. That gang sold the property. The fence is still there. And then a little family moved in, and they were trying to find water in that case. And when I went in with this, the neighborhood hadn't caught up with the fact the gang no longer lives there. So I introduced the new little family and the children to the neighborhood. We say for the sake of the children, we ask that the energy support this family. So that was a huge beginning. And we go in. This all can take some time, but if you ever I wonder why my remedy didn't stick, it may be because there was some residual energy level that did not agree to help. No, I'm not going to help. Those people, I don't like those people. So you treat everything with consciousness. Energy broadcasting, you probably do something like this. Sending energy at a distance, we use fire, water, feathers, intention, ceremonial objects. All the ceremonial objects do is help focus our intention and attention. If you do a broadcast, then and this is like radionics, you set a time for it. How long do you run it? What elements are in there, and how long do you run it? To determine the issue, what are the components, install it, activate it, and then eventually turn it off. Just quickly, I also use a First Nations protocol. Again, using the colors. Each of these are prayer ties. There's tobacco and cedar in each of these things. We know that these traditions, in the Tibetan, same kind of thing, compass. So before I begin any on-site work, I do the directions. So I honor the directions. And we're running out of time here, but we begin in the east. The south are the resources, the west is the completion, north is ethics, Father Sky. And I address these beings as if it's conscious. Thank you for the rain. We're having a rainy day. Thank you for the rain, Father Sky. Thank you for the rain that assists our crops to grow. The grandfathers, these are my dead teachers, among others. And many of them are still hanging out and willing to assist. Mother Earth, thank you for this land. The grandmothers, of course, are in charge of everything. You got to get agreement from the grandmothers. So we ask for the cooperation of each of these directions, and we're asking for the grandmothers. And the east is continuation. I was dosing some land for a fellow who wanted to buy a property to create a trout pond. I began the whole session, and I got to the west, only three in, and I got a no on completion. No matter what I did facing west, we asked for the energies of completion. And I said, let's not waste time here. You will never have a trout pond on this property. So that was how we did that. Where are we going? Yeah. Anyway, this is a good one. For the first sip of water in the morning, heal me if there's anything wrong and give me the wisdom to share. That's an excellent protocol. I invite you to take a drink of water. And anyway, there, I've written all the books, the dosing one there, Feng Shui one. If you send me an email, I'll do protocol, and I'll send you a bagua also. So that's the end of the share. So we have a few minutes left for questions. Dawn, if you've got anything?
Oh my goodness, so much packed in there. I think I could listen to you talk forever. Really kind of standout reminders for me. One is we don't have to overcomplicate things. So I know you said you liked complicated things, but you bring a very practical approach. So I really appreciate that. And just a reminder that, just to douse on everything. all of the answers are there and we don't have to wrestle them to the ground. We can identify them through dowsing. So a really cool reminder there. So I'm going to open it up to the floor. We have an amazing wealth of knowledge here, ready and willing to answer questions. So please utilize Susan's expertise. What questions have you got? Unmute and shout.
Nicholas. Got to unmute. Nicholas, we can't hear you. You could put it in the chat if you want. Okay, maybe somebody else, if anybody.
I have a question. Susan, did you start off primarily as a dowser and then moved in as a feng shui consultant?
Yes, absolutely.
And what was your interest in feng shui as it relates to dowsing?
Well, I was asked originally by the Canadian Feng Shui Institute and other feng shui people. We're finding energies, we don't know what they are. Will you come and teach us about this? So then I wrote a book. And I love that stuff. I love the different cultural traditions. And it's just all integrated at this point. But for me, it was health. What got me in here was I was afraid of the dark till I was 45. I was crippled. My hands were claws for 23 years. I was on methotrexate, prednisone, chloroquine, all kinds of stuff. So I came in to dowsing for my health primarily. And then people started asking me, can you assist? And I go into a lot of homes. But the feng shui, it's a service. What we do in service, we get back.
Thank you.
Nicholas, did you have?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Oh, hi, Susan. Thanks for that. That was really great.
Thank you.
Just going back to your the early part of your talk with the photographs of the earth energy, you have that plasma, and what you showed us there. It's the first time actually I've actually seen the plasma state that you photographed there in the form of a horse. I love taking photographs of earth energy, and I was just going to ask you, I mean, I normally call them in when I'm on site and ask them to present themselves. And I have plasma photographs like yours. And I was just wondering, how do you physically ask them to come in to present themselves to you, to show themselves?
The first thing I would suggest is to only invite the energies that are useful in that instance. So if you're working on balancing a home, only the energies that have useful information that helps toward an ongoing successful outcome, only those energies. Otherwise, you get a lot of random stuff coming in. And please, the other thing I say, because I get sick of trickster energy, a lot of people say, oh, I you know what, I invited an energy in and an X showed up. I'm not even going to say who they think they saw, but it's not that archangel, for example. It's a trickster that just take on the form of something, that they think you want to see or something that will frighten you. I'm not speaking to you specifically, Nicholas, but
No.
They'll try to activate your emotion to control. And the same for our clients as well. Oh, I saw my, dead grandmother. Oh, I saw God. Oh, I saw the devil. I never had a pleasant experience personally. It was always demons and the black things coming, the out of body experiences, the alien abduction stuff. That was like my whole experience. But I ask for the assistance of beneficial beings in resonance with me and the divine source who can assist me access information that will provide an ongoing successful outcome.
Okay.
And then I ask them to present in their true form. And it's interesting to ask your own energy to present in its true form. Like here we all are as humans. But if you ask, I'm sure you're visionary, please show me my true form. which, might be human, but it might be something else. For me, everything is electromagnetic. We're completely electromagnetic. I don't know if that answers, but only.
Yeah, it was more of a, actually, I haven't had what these photographs come when I actually visited an ancient site, like a stone circle, what have you, and dowsing energies there. So I'm not doing any healing work per se, but I'm just asking for the energies that are there to manifest themselves, so I can photograph them.
Okay,
which is slightly different.
it is different. I think we are all meant to be in service. I will tell the example. I was at a British Society of Dowsers conference some years back in Leicester. We had just gone and visited Richard III's gravesite and tomb. And that night, a couple of us felt something touch the back of our necks. And it turned out, and you can dose if this is true, but it seemed true at the time. It was Richard III. After 700 years, he's still pissed off. So an energy on a site may be there, but it may want your service. Please help me get home. Are you ready to go home now? Because sometimes when beings die, or aliens come in, or other dimensional beings come in, or walk-ins come in, they think this is the party planet. They think it's going to be a lot of fun here. And then they can't get back. So I typically say, I see you there. Can I help you? So you might have two questions. When you go to a sacred site or any place, I invite energies that need my assistance or the assistance of my team to present themselves so that I can assist you in moving to your next state of being, whatever that is. I would categorize them. I talk about guardians of a place, which in UK you might call stewards. And I call everything dear, sweet, beautiful. Dear, sweet, beautiful guardians of the place, spirit of place. I invite you to be present, to convey information through me that I may distribute in a way that is beneficial to the planet. And if you would allow me to photograph you, I would be so honored. Something like that.
Okay, thank you.
More questions? We did in the chat, we had Mike who had to drop off just to say thank you very much, Susan. It was a wonderful book.
Good. Well, you guys can send me an email after if you want. Check out the books. I got a YouTube channel. I wish you all good luck in your practices. We certainly need all of us to work as well as we can to bring balance and harmony, to help people, help the planet, help the universe, help the multiverse, get everything. And if you've never asked yourself, ask do I, say your own name, have a soul mission? Well, here's one just before we go. I invite you to dose. If I, say your own name, is the energy of the vow of the Bodhisattva present in my field on average? Is the energy of the vow of the Bodhisattva present in my field on average? And I invite you to dose it if you want. Is the energy of the vow of the Bodhisattva? And how many get a yes? Several people. Dose now, is it beneficial for me to have the vow of the Bodhisattva present in my field on average, or at all, or ever? Because when you're working, the vow may activate. Is it non-beneficial for anybody? No non-beneficial? Erica, you're non-beneficial? Right on. No, it's good to know. This is one of the biggest things. The vow of the Bodhisattva is, in my understanding, to remain incarnated until all sentient beings are enlightened. And for me, that includes potentially the multiverse. That's a huge vow. I filter that by asking in territory. So if we have to remain incarnated through all time and space and dimensions, that's a very long time to stick around. If you are resonant, if it's beneficial to you, then you get a huge amount of support from the universe to fulfill these vows, which are basically vows of service. If it is non-beneficial to you, Erica, and anybody else who's non-beneficial, ask Dose, would it be beneficial for me, say your own name, to reduce the size of the territory of the vow? Would the Bodhisattva vow be beneficial to me in a smaller territory? Erica, what do you get? Putting the spotlight on you. Yes, it would. See, that's huge. Like for many of us, like at the different stages of development or practice, like we maybe don't want to take on the multiverse. But I met one woman and we did the whole Bodhisattva vow. What's the territory? How big is it? And her territory was 8 inches from her hands almost. Other people, it's the planet, the solar system, the universe, the multiverse. But this woman, her territory was only there, but she was a celebrity hairdresser. So she's working on all kinds of people. Interesting, right? Very interesting. Erica, maybe you have a smaller, maybe you do handwork or something. I don't know. Anyway, with all these things, we detect and we transform. Embrace our power. If it's not us, who the heck's going to do it?
Susan, what would be your one kind of piece of sage advice for us all as we're all kind of at different stages of our practice? What's the one thing that we really should be paying attention to?
Be in your body. Be in your body while you do the work. Then do some sort of protocol before you begin the work. After the work, close the session. Be in service if you can. For me, for years, I was trying to eliminate the arthritis. I used to say, heal my arthritis, heal my body, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, energetic. And I was doing alphabet. I'll keep going. I can keep going for days here, but I won't. Last thing I'm going to say. I was using I said, heal my body, all aspects. I was using in those days an alphabet chart. And the answer came back, not as long as you ask. Heal my body, not as long as you ask. And it took me a couple of years. Oh, if I am in service for others, then I will be healed. Let me be the channel, the vessel. I don't use those words, but it's as if I'm going to be the vessel for healing, I get cleaned up automatically. If I'm in service, heal me if there's anything wrong and give me the wisdom to share.
Beautiful words.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. As I say, I could listen to you experiences forever. So I really appreciate your time. It's still more, probably just dipped into afternoon now for you, is it?
11 o'clock in the morning for me.
Still morning. Thank you. I will send you an invite into our little
lovely. Thank you.
group. We have our talk next month. It's normally the second Wednesday of the month. And Tim has lined up Melinda Cropsey, and she channels artwork. So she'll be here to share her process and some of her artwork. I think that's all the news update that Tim wanted to share. He's been busily working on his presentation talk for Adrian's event that's coming up in the UK and catching up with all the builders. But he did want to remind all the affiliates to send Rosie Velasquez the details and a photo so that you can go up on the website. And that is a good reminder for me, because I haven't done that either. So for any affiliates here, send your information to Rosie. I'll pop something on the Facebook group as well. So thank you so much. Please, everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. Lovely to see everybody's faces. And Susan, really look forward to you joining the group.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it also.
And thank you, everyone.
Bye.